Hello and welcome to this presentation from B&Q and Calibrate. Apologies for the delays, we've had a few technical issues with audio. I am Ross Grieve and today we're going to take you over the next hour through some portraiture, hybrid photography, and a lot of you guys may be going, what is hybrid photography? Well, wait and see, you'll see it. It's a mixture of video and pulling stills from video, but we're also going to do some traditional stills as well. We've got lovely Emma behind me, she's probably blurry because everything's focused on me, so you'll see a wider shot as well on camera 2 or camera 1, and you'll see everything that's going to go on. So we'll go through simple light setups with Elinchrom lights as well. We're shooting tethered, and you lucky guys are also going to receive some raw files that you'll be able to work on before next week's on the 19th at 4 PM. Before next week's retouch talk. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat feed, and Alex will be able to attend to those. Anything else I'm not sure on, we'll answer those later. So let's get into shooting. We're going to start off just with a standard sort of grey shoot, so we want to be nice and wide so we can sort of see all this. And I'm just going to turn the camera around a little bit because it's pointing at me too much. And we're sort of going to start and introduce colour into it as well. And we're going to also introduce colour management. So we're going to talk about colour management makes your life so much easier as well. When you think about if you edit afterwards and you're not sure about the colours, but if you get your colour management and your white balance bang on to start with, then you'll find it so much easier. So I tend to use Calibrate's colour checker, and I'm just really tactfully picking one up that I didn't have in my hand before. So the good thing about the colour checker, you've got two things you can use. You can do your white balance, which has got a grey colour there, and these are all scientifically printed. And then we can do a full matrix and a full profile using this. But just today, we're just going to concentrate on the white balance. We'll do both. So Emma, I just want you to hold that. And so when I take this photo, which is extremely exciting for no one watching, you want to just focus really nice and tight on the actual colour checker. Okay, and you want to have a nice even light. So I've got a nice bright light. Now we are showing previews of what's being shot, but what's seen on screen at the moment, for some reason, that is darker than I'm actually shooting here. But you'll actually get the raw files, a selection of those to have a play around with. So don't worry too much about that. And then if we just turn that around, thank you mate. And we just turn that around and we'll get the full matrix. So you put that like that. What's really important when you shoot this photo as well, you don't have any fingers in front, so there's a lot of calculations that need to be done, and it's a plug-in with Lightroom. If you're wondering what I'm shooting on at the moment as well, I'm shooting on a 24-105 lens f4, and that's on a Lumix S1R, so you're going to have nice big files to play around with. These files are going to be about 40 odd meg plus, so we're going to have a lot of fun next week. So we're just going to start off with some really cool, simple poses. Now, Emma and I've never worked together. Poor Emma. So she's thrown to hot seat. So this is really cool also for people who are working with models for the first time and how to sort of interact with models. It's a lot of simple direction, and it's about having fun as well. So we're just going to start. We've got two lights here, but we're going to start with one. And this is the Elinchrom 500 Pro head. And I've just got a 90 deep octa on it. It's one of my favourite light shapers, and I want to get that nice and high. Now, because I'm not going to expose to the background, I'm going to drop that down completely, and I've got this light behind me here, which I'm just going to ask Steve just to kill him, unless you guys can't see it. If you guys can't see it, we'll keep it on. I think it's going to be too dark, so we'll keep it on for now. We've got a big nano softbox here, which is spinning a lot of light around the back. So I'm just looking at what I'm shooting here. I'm shooting ISO 200, and I like to use a lot of negative space. Yes. And I like those highs here. Lovely. Okay. That's lovely. Just down a little bit. Okay, so I'm just watching, now because we've got other lights going on here, that's really nice. And it's nice to also show the person you're photographing what's going on, because that gives them confidence in what you're photographing as well. So there you go, you'll get a load of those. Okay, So you'll notice a lot of the stuff I shoot from the promo stuff as well, that I shoot a lot to the side. I use a third, I have a lot of negative space, and that allows rooms for text and stuff as well, but you can also crop in because of the size of these. So let's go again. So I'm shooting about 4.5 because I want to get her eyes nice and sharp and straight down the lens this time. Now Emma's 5'9", I'm 5 nothing, and I'm on my tiptoes. That's lovely. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're just going to adjust the light, and we've been shooting from the side here. I want to actually move it, and I turn the power right down to its absolute minimum. So what Emma's going to do, and we haven't rehearsed this is what makes it even better for you guys. So I want you to turn the side on and look straight to the light, okay? I want you to put your hands back a bit, and I want you to lean towards on the balls of your feet. Just drop your chin down ever so slightly, and just slightly gooseneck. Gooseneck is just pushing your chin forward a little bit. That's it. Love it. Okay. Here we go. So I've turned the light down as low as possible because I really don't want to get too strong a light in it. I've adjusted my exposure by 2 stops. And let's just see what we're going to get. I'd say I'm a little bit hot, and that's because this is bouncing around, and I've also got another light on in the background. We'll do it. Okay. That's lovely. That's amazing. So, I don't know if you can see that shot come up. It's a really beautiful lit shot on Emma's face. It's always good when your model nods. We're going to get her to sing in a bit as well, but she doesn't know that part. So it's really simple because the light is really soft, and what it does, it'll give definition on the face as well. It's not just about, look forward at the camera all the time. If you turn things sideways and you just work with people balancing on their balls of their feet, give a nice posture as well. And when they've got a really nice profile like Emma has, it makes life really easy as well. So if we do that shot again, Emma, I'm just going a little bit wider. Okay. There we go. Okay, but this time, I just want you to turn towards me. Just turn your head and shoulders towards me if you can.
On me?
Just rotate from the hips. So rotate from the hips, that's it. So we're still going to shoot nice and high. Just keep that lean, that sort of shape. That's it, perfect. So, lovely. Okay, and then you're going to get a completely different look because the light is in the same place. But obviously Emma's face is turned a little bit. So the face that is closest to me, so the face is going to be darker, which looks really cool. Just keep that. Okay. Beautiful. Lovely. Oops. Blink. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to get Emma to pop on a nice bright jacket now. And we'll do a quick change. So that's what we're about, doing really nice bright colours as well. The beauty about the BenQ monitors, which I've been using, and you would have seen the review I did on the SW 271C. The beauty about that, it's like retouching on photographic paper as well. It's a really non-reflective screen as well. We're actually using 2 of them here. One set up is the side monitor so you can see the previews, and the other one is set up for the tether. And when you're editing, it will change. But the beauty about this series is it's hybrid. So you can do video, and I do a lot of video now because the way the industry has gone, you have to adapt and make yourself workable. And I've got a lot of video work coming up now as well as still. So it's really cool to have a new skill set. But these monitors will do both jobs, where before you would have a specialised video monitor and a specialised photography monitor. So those who are thinking, okay, well, what if I'm a videographer? What happens if I want to use a colour checker? They've made a colour checker for videographers as well. So that's a very cool tool to use. Now we've got some colour. We are in Wales, so we have to go with red, okay? And it's a fantastic bright colour. Now, I've got this light on the side, and I just want Emma to go to the back. Rather than stand at the front of the octa, I want to just go back. And that light is hopefully just going to wrap around her face a little bit. Just going to tilt it down so we get more of it there. That's a look. That's great. That's a great look. There we go. That's beautiful. That's, yeah. You read my mind. Fantastic. So it's really cool when you're working with someone and they understand how crazy your mind is as well. So awesome. And now I'm going to move that around to the front. So we've done some of the sides, same position for Emma, and I'm just going to rotate this. So now we're at about 45 degrees-ish, 45 degrees. Steve, is that camera wide enough for everyone? Just make sure they can see everything. Great. Okay. And there we go. Okay, now I forgot to turn the power down on that, so I've just got to dial it up a bit. Who hasn't done that before? It's alright. At least I remember to put the card in the camera this time. Okay. Now I also use back button focusing. So I focus with this thumb, and people sort of wonder why. It just makes my trigger a little bit quicker as well, and maybe that's from photographing sports and people, but it does make life easier. So here we go. That's fantastic. Lovely. And just turn your head towards the light for me, please. That's gorgeous. Like that. And I'm just going to go really nice and wide. Now, there's a thing about crouching down and shooting low and crouching down and shooting high. With perspectives, you get a different look. If you go, depending how your model is standing, if your model's leaning back, I personally don't think it's flattering because then you've got large feet and everything goes the wrong way, doesn't it? Then if you've got them leaning forward and you're shooting there, that's quite flattering. That looks better. So be mindful of the position you're going to be in shooting your model. You don't have to be at eye level the whole time, but it does help if you take into mind or work with your model. Look, this is what I'm thinking of. Can we sort of get this shot? So the pose you just did before, I took that shot, if you just go back. That's it. That's lovely. That's it. Spot on. That's it. Fantastic. Now when you're taking portraits as well, with your lighting, you want to absolutely make sure you get highlights in the eyes. If you don't get highlights in the eyes, the portrait looks a little bit dead and it's really not working. So that's half the battle, I think. So people want to sort of get this really nice portrait, these beautiful eyes, but there's no highlights. And the portrait sort of, falls apart at that point because you should be drawn to the eyes and then you look around the rest of the screen. So now we're going to go in nice and tight on now. Give it a nice, really nice headshot. That's lovely. How's that like? It's not too rough, is it? So I'm shooting f8. Rather than increase the power of my light, I'm just going to dial it down a little bit to a stop. So now, I'm getting these really lovely, beautiful headshots. Whoops, just got half a blink there. It's my fault. I didn't come down for you. Okay, just rotate your hand so I don't see the back of it.
This way?
Yeah, perfect. I have a strange thing about hands. I don't like seeing the back of hands. That's gorgeous.
Just like my collar.
Yeah. Let's go full 180s with the collar. There we go. Okay, just bring your elbows in a little bit for me. Lovely. That's lovely. Great, so you've got, just from having the light in one place, Emma's bound to, obviously she's a professional model, she knows what to do. She was Miss Wales. And then she's got all this bag of poses, but don't be afraid to interact with the model and say, look, I'm really thinking about this, let's try that, and you'll get great feedback off a model as well, because they know what they're doing as well, like us who take photos and we basically just push a button. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move the light around. So it's going to go high. So you would have heard about butterfly lighting. And butterfly lighting is really beautiful light. So it's a light from above, quite high up, and you get this little shadow under the nose. It can be incredibly powerful. I'm just sort of looking where it is because I just want the light just to hit the top of Emma's head and run down. The background's going to be white because we've got a big light here. Normally I would have killed those lights, but it might benefit you guys because you wouldn't see me, which makes the whole thing a bit pointless. Okay, so let's go again. Okay, so now we've got this beautiful little bit of butterfly light just coming from above, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I've got a light which is off here, and that's fantastic. So we're going to go in for some nice tight headshots again, and then we're going to have a quick change of clothes as well. For those just joining, apologies for the audio. We've had some issues with audio today, but when we look at it, that audio will be sorted for next week's demo.
We've lost the tether as well, Ross.
We've lost the tether. Okay. So I am using a pre-production camera, so that's my excuse. I'll just have to reset it, turn it off, turn it on again. If we lose the tether, you guys are going to have a good selection next week for next week anyway. So we'll just let that re-go again. Have you got it back? If we haven't got the tether, we won't go with it. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. It's technology, and when you do live feeds, there's always unfortunately going to be something that could possibly go wrong. I haven't knocked a camera or a light over yet, so we're doing quite well. What I was going to talk about there was Emma looking out of shot. So a lot of people think you have to look into shot. So the last one, which if I take this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that from here. It's very, very small, but she is looking out of camera. I don't want to go too close because I know what sort of in focus zone is at. But again, she's shot to the left. So again, we've got room for text, but it makes the photo look more interesting. It draws you in as well. So if I just photograph the same pose again.
Is it this one?
It was, if pose, it was that actually, yes. And you were looking out of shot, that's it. So I'm just going to do that wider and out of shot, and wider, and wider. Okay. Okay. Just hold that for me. There we go. Just look straight down the lens for me. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So now we've had our butterfly lighting, we've had that fun. So what happens when we bring in a bigger light? So obviously we've had quite a small light source there. We've got a big light source there that I keep looking into. I'm going to change into the other one.
Yeah.
Yep. So now we've got a 3-foot octabox, and this is ideal for, say, families and stuff like that, but it also can create a really beautiful wraparound as well. What I'm going to try and do is, I know this is going to be darker for a little bit, but what's going to happen, there's a big light here, and what's happening is that's causing a lot of bounce going around the white wall. So I'm just going to kill that for a sec. I'll get Steve to kill it when I tell him to. And that's going to enable me to have a darker background for you guys to work with. I'll tell you when to, Steve. Move it back on. So I'll tell him when to do that, and it's gone off. So, okay, so what's going to happen, Emma's got the lovely yellow light, so I'm going to be able to give you a nice dark background as well. All going well. Okay, so there's lights on there, lights on there. Just going to drop that on actually. I'm just going to use this one again, this shot. When I go anywhere to do corporate shots, anything like this is my go-to to get one light. And that's my stand-up. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick test shot, which is 4.5. Let's go again. Right there. Okay, Steve, you can kill that light, please. Okay, so we've got some pretty bright stuff. I'm just going to shoot this, and the background's a little bit dark for you. Okay, Steve, can you pop back on? Lovely. shooting while that's coming back on, because I know you guys can't see anything. There we go, we're back in the zone. Lovely. So I dropped down to a 50th of a second there, which was nice. And now I'm shooting back to 100 between F9 and getting some beautifully sharp photos. I'm going to check the power I've got on there, which is only 1.1, but I'm just going to crank that up a bit. I could do it on here. And so we're going yellow now. Positive thinking. There we go. Right, so back to our light at the side. And this time I want you to just come to the forward light, so you're just on the edge of it, okay? And then I want you to look towards that light again. And then keep your hips where they are, turn your shoulders back towards you. That's it, lovely. Okay, so this should be quite dramatic. Yeah. Just take half a step back for me, Emma. Back towards the back of the light. That back. There we go. That's lovely. And then just rotate your hips really around towards me again. That's it. That's it. Lovely. And again, just take half a step back. Lovely. Okay, so what I'm doing is just getting different sort of spills of light going ahead, rather than, I know all you guys can see is the side of the light there. Well, the size of the light is only this. But the spill can be quite beautiful if you get it right. And why I'm asking Emma to drop back each time, because that spill will change. So if she's at the front, the spill is going to be more on the back. Each time she steps back, her face comes into it more, and she gets a better spill onto it. So it's really important just to grab those shots when you've got the time to do it, that you can actually just get different spill, different looks, and whatever your client's after, it gives you a bit of variety to show them as well. Okay, here we go. That's lovely. Well done. And just head like that, so keep your position there. That's fantastic. So I'll take a shot with the light in, just so you can see it, and I'll show you that to you next week as well. Okay, and straighten it, just a little bit around this way. So what's happening is, because I've got Emma's head position there, I just want to get a bit of a catch light in her eyes. And that's lovely, that's gorgeous. Like that. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to turn this light off for now, and we're going to actually use that maybe as a rim light. We're going to turn that one off. I'm going to bring in its big brother, which is the 3-foot octabox. And this is, like I said before, I use this for families, and I've also had it as a hair light as well. So just nice and high and above on a boom, it can be really, really nice. And with all lights, the best thing what to do, people go, oh, how do you do that, how do you do that? The best thing to do is just practice, practice, practice. Get your lights, do what you want with them, put them on all these cool places that you might think is a bit insane, and just do that. Okay. Now we're looking. So the spill on this light is obviously a lot bigger than a small light, so you've got lots more coverage. So you can feather it, and by feathering, you just move it around, and the light will effectively move off it. I have got modelling lights on it today because we're quite bright in here as well, and I didn't really want to put extra lights on. So you don't always have to shoot everything really narrow. I know a lot of people like to shoot on primes, and I've got a 50mm prime here, but I tend to find this, this can go down to f4. I've got a good range between 24 and 105. I don't really want to be shooting too wide, because if you shoot portraits wide, I think it's unflattering. You want to be looking at 50mm plus. And when I change on here, it's telling me on the back of the camera what focal length I'm at anyway. So if I'm shooting about 85mm, which is another nice focal length for portraiture, that works really well too. So I've only got this on 1.6, so I'm just going to do a couple of test shots with Emma and see how our light is. And don't be afraid to tell your client, that's actually a really nice soft light. Just slightly a little bit low. Don't be afraid to tell your client, oh, just jump in there and let me take a couple of test shots. Because if you say that, they'll be relaxed and you can get some really, really cool test shots without them even realising. And a way to do this, I'm going to show you in a sec, is called 4K photography. And we're going to do it in a second. Okay, so I'm going to dial this up a little bit. Turn this down to 8. So I'm shooting really high, so everything is sharp, and Emma's clothing is fantastic, so it looks great as well. And I'm just going to bring this other light in now, on this side. So we've sort of got, each light is at 45 degrees, so you've got a key light, which is this one here. You don't want your lights at the same level, you want to have a bit of definition. So if this light's more powerful, this light's going to be a bit less. Obviously this side is going to be darker. So there we go. That's great, look. Excellent. I'm just checking my light's power. I'm just going to drop this one down so I think I get a bit powerful. I'm going to discharge it as well before I shoot them because that energy will still be stored in them. Here we go. So I'm shooting and coming right back here to cameras I know. My little head in front of you guys. Okay. I'm shooting about 75mm. And that's lovely. Great. Okay, so what we're going to try and do now is show you what happens when you shoot with 4K photography. And 4K photography, we're going to count for Emma, bless her. So what happens with 4K photography is we're going to film it for about 10 seconds. We're going to count to 10. You can count at home if you want, it might be slightly weird. And then we're going to get potentially 300 shots in 10 seconds because we're filming at 30 frames a second. And you're thinking, why are you going to film? And the reason is, when you shoot this way, you get all the movement that is in between. So with Emma doing her poses, we get all the shots that are in between. So, and that's really, really cool. Rather than just the normal poses, which people are used to, they hear a shutter go, or they see a strobe go, and they will move pose. Now, Emma's never done this before, which is even better, so it makes it more real. And we haven't rehearsed this before today as well, because we haven't met before today. But what's incredibly important is, if you're in the studio, you have some really, really pumping music going. And for copyright reasons, that's why we haven't got some really, really pumping music going. So that's why. So you can either do it in 6K or 4K, it's entirely up to you. And that just depends on how you like to shoot. I'm just going to quickly change the camera for a sec. I'll be with you in 2 seconds because I just need to put a battery in my camera.
Is this the part where I sing?
This is the part where you sing and feel the interlude and all that amazing stuff that you do. Okay, almost back. Okay, so all I'm just going to do, guys, I'm just going to quickly have a look at some images, and there's some great images for you guys here as well, by the way. Okay. So when you're filming in 4K, most mirrorless cameras will have a 4K mode. Don't worry if you've got 6K. So I'm just going to change into 4K on here. Okay, and my card's just saying I'm full. Brilliant. So I'll just do a quick card change. 2 seconds. Now, also the cards you want to use if you're going to shoot 4K, you want to have a Class C, Class 10 card, or something that's fast enough. 6K, you need something a little bit faster as well. So we need obviously you can either go into photo mode or you can just jump into 4K mode. It depends what you want to do. And I think I've got my setup down here, so I'm just going to jump into quick menu on here, and 4K mode should jump up. So which is actually set as quick menu 6K mode, which I don't want because I want to set you guys 4K. Okay. So now, the way I also shoot, so some people look at cameras and there is burst modes, there's a start-stop mode, there's different modes. I tend to shoot on the start-stop mode because I've got more control. So I can literally push the button and go start and stop. Now, it's telling me already, I know I'm in the mode because it's telling me minutes and seconds rather than how many shots I've got left. So I know I've got 4 minutes, but we're only going to shoot for about 10 seconds. I'm going to make sure Emma's nice and brightly lit. You want to put the lights up on the back for me, Steve, please? So we're just going to use, this is studio lights. You can use modelling lights. If you find you get a bit of banding in your modelling lights, there's an easy way to get rid of that, and that is just shoot about 1/100th of a second, and that should eliminate it. Anything above 1/100th of a second, you may get rolling shutter. Okay, you ready for this bit of madness? So I've just got to dial around nice and fast for the camera. Okay. Here we go, ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shoot this in portrait actually. Right. Ready, two, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Feel weird? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But we've now got a whole bank of images of Emma and not just the normal poses. We'll do it again. And I'm going to do it more landscape this time as well. And I'm going to quickly change my lens for this part as well. 2 seconds. So the important bit is doing landscape and portrait. It just gives you more variety. If you've got variety, then that keeps everything happy going as well. Okay, so now I've just changed my lens to a 50mm and I'm going to go down to 1.4. Just gives me a bit more light rather than basically blinding Emma. I don't want to go too bright either. And I'm focusing on her eyes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Brilliant, well done. Now, the difference when you're filming in 4K and 6K, obviously it's quite weird because it's quiet, and you're getting the bits in between. But don't feel you have to blast everything with light. You can adjust that afterwards. It's always good to keep the detail in as well. But think like a photographer when you're doing it, because all you're doing is exploiting the high frame rate. So you're shooting at high frame rate, 30 frames a second. You don't have to push it up really, really high. So that will give you a 3 to 4 as well. You can also just put it on a tripod if you find it easier to do that as well. All my tripods are being used at the moment. But you could just put it on a tripod, but make sure you hold it still. So don't wave your camera around and get them to move around, because then your photos and it's going to come blurred because of the movement of your hand and from the movement of the model. So if that makes sense, I hope. You would have seen a dog I photographed years ago. It's a black and white dog running towards camera. That's how that was achieved, and that was shot in 4K. And from a 4K you'll get an 8 megapixel file, from a 6K you'll get an 18 megapixel file. The files you'll get are JPEGs, you don't get a RAW file filming this way. But the JPEG quality is so good these days, then it doesn't really matter. So I think that's it. So we're going to go back to normal now. So we've got lights on. If you can just kill the other lights please, Steve. So we're going to go back to sort of normal shooting. If you've got questions, please put them in the questions and Alex will try and answer them, and we'll have a quick sort of Q&A at the end as well, and we'll answer as much as we can. I'm sure Em's got a few as well. Okay, so we're back into our lights now. So change your lens. I'm now shooting at 100 and I've got 50mm on. So let's see what we've got here. And classic Ross, left it in 4K mode rather than changing it. So change it back to single mode and we're back again. There we go. That's it. Okay. That's a little bit bright for me. So I'm just going to dial it down. Okay. There we go. That's lovely. Just going to crank this one. That's 1.4. And this one is 3, which is the lowest it's going to go. I'm going to drop this down to 1. Okay, there we go. So now I've just pushed that away, and the reason is, so I just want a bit more light on Emma, but I also want to chuck a bit more light on the back as well. So the light on half of this is going to bypass Emma, and it's going to hit the background, and the rest of it is just going to nicely light Emma's face. I'm just going to try and get a little bit taller than her if possible. My tiptoes, that's lovely, and then there we go. Gorgeous. Lovely. Fantastic. It's so nice when you push buttons sometimes. But that colour looks fantastic as well. I think for me, the red looked amazing. But we've got one more jacket which you really want to try. So if you want to pop that on. So we've gone from red, we've done all these really cool colours. And remember, if you use your colour checker, especially if you're photographing clothes, weddings for example, you need to get the bride's dress absolutely bang on. I remember a few years ago I was shooting a wedding and the bride's dress was this slight off peach. It was a very particular colour, so you couldn't really fake it in post-production. But I had a colour checker, did that, and I did that in every light situation. So if you go outside, take a new reading. If you're in the church, take a new reading because the light is different there. In the home, at the start, take a reading. It's just one reference point, and it makes your life so much easier at the end of the day. And you'll be really glad you did it. So I'm just going to raise the height of this light here a bit because I want it to come down. And that's also going to stop a bit of spill on the back. So that means because I've tilted it down, I need to take it bigger. Roughly about a metre, roughly to me, or a large step is about one stop. So if you don't want to dial your lights down, or you can either move them away, or if you want to really dial them down and get them nice and close like we did earlier. Okay. There we go. And straighten out. Okay. This is fake fur, by the way, just in case everyone's wondering what it is. Lovely. And just really tight, that's it. So I'm quickly going to change the lens. I want to change the lens because I want to zoom in really tight because I'm shooting a prime lens. That doesn't give me that luxury to sort of walk in nice and tight, which is probably why I use this 24 to 105 over and over all the time. Let's just see where this is from. Okay, we're back in the room. So, really nice and tight. I'm actually 105mm on it now. That's fantastic, straight down. That's gorgeous. And just same again. I need to get a step better next time. That, hold that again. Put it down for me, and smile. Gorgeous. Awesome. So when you get your model and they do a pose you like, get them to do it again. It'll make them happy because they know that that's something you really, really like. They're going to smile. Emma's got a fantastic smile, so you want to really get that as well. And it'll make life easier for you because then you can sort of construct stuff around that as well. So we've gone from the, let's go with the hands really close up, both hands to the top.
Like this?
So, right?
On top of
Yeah.
the bird?
So, yeah, and then just break your wrists outwards a bit, but holding on to your collar, so just break your wrists out. So my rule of thumb is with hands, if it bends, bend it from your shoulder all the way down. So this doesn't look great, but if you bend the hands out, it's a softer look. We don't see the backs of the hands, and that's really important. So just bend, that's it, perfect. There we go. So my camera, luckily, has got facial recognition, so every shot is getting Emma's eyes absolutely bang on. Okay, so let's just go from the waist up this time.
Okay.
So rather than adjust my focal length, I took a step back because I really like this focal length and how it's shooting at the moment. So rather than just being lazy and just, oh, I'll zoom back, and you want to keep the same focal length, just take a step back. And again, I'm hardly having to adjust anything. I'm just going to put a little bit more power on this. Okay, there we go. And now I've gone a little bit wider. But actually, put your hands on your hips. Really strong look. That's it. Try with both for me here. That's it. I don't know why I've got my legs spread this wide, but maybe you're watching too much crime. Yeah, that's gorgeous. And again. Also, sometimes I tend, because I learned to shoot on film, I tend to get everything as right in the camera as I possibly can. So if you're shooting, turn it off for a sec. If you're shooting live and you've got to deliver it really quickly, getting it right in camera will save you a fortune, because people want to also get the post-production and stuff out there really, really quickly as well.
To move the camera. I think we moved the camera to the side.
Yeah, yeah. This one, the wide.
Yeah, the wide.
The wide. So, how's that? How's that? You'll just need to refocus on.
Yeah.
Sorry, technical thing. I'm just going to refocus on Emma because I've got it on. This is the wide. This needs to be locked off. Yeah, that's better. That's much better. There we are. Okay. When you're, just actually a good point there, moving that around, the way I was focusing, I've locked the focus off. And when you're focusing using mirrorless cameras and using the video technology, you have this thing called focus peaking. And focus peaking shows you the colour when you're in manual focusing mode of what's in focus. So we've pre-focused there. We've pre-focused there. We've pre-focused there. And it allows us to see what's in focus. So when I look at the back of the camera, Emma's got a nice blue halo around her, so I know she's pin sharp. So it's like the old days when we used to shoot film, we'd have to line up two lines to get everything sharp. It makes life a lot easier. Okay, let's do this quickly again. There we go. That's lovely. And again. Fantastic. And I'm just moving back because I want to keep that focal length. And I just want to get a little wide one just to show you guys next week what we were doing. There we go. Lovely. Okay. If you, Emma for me, if you just want to really almost wrap yourself around it so you're out in the blizzard completely. That's it. You're out in the blizzard or you've just been watching the rugby. All Blacks at the end of the month. That's Wales. Whoa. Okay. There we go. Now, because I really like the look we did earlier with Emma as well, I'm just going to move this light around, move it back here. And she knows what's going on. I'm just going to drop that down. But to start with, actually, I'm going to do that because I like that, really like that coat. It looks awesome. Okay. So we're going to get a little bit of light. We're going to get a little bit of light. We're going to get a little bit of light from here and a lot of light from there. Okay, so on the back of here I am at 3 because I want it at the lowest because it's close to Emma. I don't want to blind her for the rest of her life. So have consideration for the people you're photographing. This is going to backlight a bit, so if you want to turn towards that light that we did earlier today, but stand upright for me just normally. That's it, thank you. Because I made you stand awkwardly earlier. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is now we've got this beautiful light hitting Emma's face, and we've got this light at the back, this light at the back, just streaming down here, and just adding in the detail, getting her hair, which is really nice. We've got this lovely light just coming in, and just hitting you like that. Yeah, it proves, that's all right. Okay, and again, so now I'm going to, what I really like doing is using negative space. So I'm going to go out wider, not too wide. Okay, so Emma, can you just rotate toward that? That's it, perfect. Lovely. Gorgeous. That's it. Okay, so I'm shooting, if you're wondering what I'm shooting at, ISO 200. When I am, sorry, camera's moved, I'm not used to that. when I am shooting, I am constantly changing my exposures and that all the way through. I don't tend to stick at the same thing because I'm changing the lights, I change my exposures and all the time for what I want to do. The reason I do that is just the way I work, and it may seem a weird way of working, but there's a million ways that we can shoot in a studio, and this is just one way to do it. It's too long. Okay, here we go. And again. Lovely. Just hold that right there where you are. So now we've got I think the perfect position. Now, a good thing as well, when you're angling someone's face, make sure that their nose is not breaking their cheek. So breaking their cheek is breaking their cheek at the back. So I just took a shot there, and Emma's nose was just in front of her cheek, so I just wanted to turn a little bit. And you'll notice one thing as well, with Emma, I don't need to go up and manhandle her or anything. I can just use my hands, and she knows exactly which way. If I want to head up like that, head that way. If I want eyes, she'll follow my eyes that way. It's great, it's like a superpower. That's brilliant. Okay. So here we go. That's it, perfect. So now her nose is not breaking her cheek, it's bang on. Absolutely lovely. Lovely, hold that. Amazing. Now what also happens as well, because I'm lighting the back of her face, it's sort of narrow lighting, it's not broad lighting. So this side here is the most exposed side of her face, and it's getting filled in by the light on this side. And it's more flattering to, especially to a female, if you narrow light it, and it just slims everything down, not that she needs it. I got myself out of that quite quickly, I felt. Okay, so I'm about F8 again, so I get this lovely detail coming in. Just drop down. So again, I'm changing it. And then I'm just going nice and tight on the face. Lovely eyes. Oops, and 3, 2, 1. Lovely. Lovely. Amazing. Excellent. How are we doing for questions here, Alex? Anyone at the moment? Good. If you've got any questions, bang them in. And especially about the 4K hybrid photography, bang them in as well, because that's really, really important. It's really simple, sounds complicated, but we'll go through that more next week, and you'll have files from that to play around with as well. The files that you'll get from the 4K or 6K will actually be JPEGs, and I could actually send the whole 10-second clip if you want to. You can have a look at that, that's no problem at all, and then you can sort of have a play around with that as well. Okay. So, let's go back to red. So red's been the favourite of the day, okay. So we'll go to that. So, when you're working with someone as well, and you want to sort of work to a colour palette, sort of give them an idea. And when you've got people coming to the studio as families, sort of tell them what you want to shoot. So, if you don't want to shoot rugby shirts, if you want to shoot them in all black tops, well, not the rugby team, but I'm biased, or as in black tops, have them sort of derive black tops and jeans look really, really cool. Or white tops and jeans, but if you want to shoot high key, tell your client or your friends or whoever you're photographing what you want to shoot, and let them know, because you're the photographer at the end of the day, and they want to know to get the best images for their wall. Okay, let's go again. So this time I'm going to move this a little bit around to the back, and if you come forward a little bit for me, about there, thank you. So this is sandwich lighting. So this has now become a kicker at the back. A kicker is a light that will put a light down the edge of someone, and we've got our main light at the front here. Your kicker can be the same exposure as the other light, that's no problem at all. And it's just enough. Okay, here we go. So this should give a little rim light down the back, and it does. Okay, lovely.
Ross, what metering mode are you using?
Oh, right, good question from Steve, who's had the joyous job of operating the decks today, mate. Metering mode I use, two modes I use. I use matrix metering, which is basically the metering of all four. You can use a light meter if you want. I haven't used a light meter in years because the metering in cameras is pretty good. Spot metering is very, very good as well if you want to get accurate skin exposure. But otherwise, and if you want to know what colour profile I use, I always shoot in standard. I don't go for dynamic or anything like that. I shoot from standard. Anything I want to change, I can change in Lightroom afterwards, because with the colour checker I can create a profile and do that, but I don't really bother with that because I've got my own presets which I use, and from black and white to desaturated looks to normal looks as well, which you'll all see next week anyway. So I just use matrix mode, and that's the easiest thing I tend to find.
Another question.
Yes?
How important is the colour checker when shooting colour images?
Extremely important. I can't work without it, and I was the classic guy. When I met the guys from Colour Bright, which was back in the day, they were X-Right, I actually was the guy who used to get prints and hold them next to my screen and go, oh, that's about right. Your eyes are not that good. They are very good, but they are not that good. Once you start using a colour checker along with say an i1 Studio and a screen calibration, your printing will change, your imagery will change for the better. And it sounds complicated, but it's the most simple thing to do. I do it maybe once a week, if that, because I get a reminder anyway to say my screen will be calibrated. The B&Q monitor knows when it needs to be calibrated as well. It will say it needs to be calibrated. I even use my monitor for gaming as well, which is really cool, which is what it's not designed for, but it looks good because it's got HDR on it. But going back to the colour checker, how important is it? It's so important, and that's why I use it all the time. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be banging on about it. I've talked about colour management to people as well, and normally in the room when you ask who does it and they put the hand up, say you have a room of 50 people, 5 people will put their hand up because they don't understand the importance of it, and I didn't understand the importance of it until probably, I'd say, 5 years ago. And I've really sort of immersed myself into it. So yes, it is extremely important. Yes. All good?
One more question.
Yep.
Is the colour checker for setting in-camera colour balance or processing software colour balance?
There is a plug-in for the colour checker that goes into Lightroom. So where we saw the matrix at the start, which had is this one, and which has had all that. So that can help you create a profile, and there's a plug-in and it'll read all of that within Lightroom, and it will create a profile from your camera. So that's how that does. The other one which we're using is a white balance, so that sort of gets your prime layer, if you like, of your photo when it comes into Lightroom. Because also be careful when you're importing into Lightroom, you haven't got presets set. So some people have preset sets when they load into Lightroom, because that sort of defeats the purpose of this a bit. You want to start at the most natural shot out of camera as possible when you're using this, and then you can go and do your adjustments. And also, what's important as well, the room that you're editing in. It's no point editing in a bright room with a bright screen, because you're just going to have glare. It's really hard. And iMacs are notorious for that. I use an iMac, but I don't use the iMac for editing. I've got the B&Q monitors beside that, so that's my secondary monitor. And that also makes my workflow a lot easier having two monitors. I'll say it now, I personally think iMacs are horrendous to edit on, and I've said it in reviews before, because they are so reflective. When you're editing on a flat monitor, it makes life easier, and it's like you're editing on paper. I hope that sort of answers your question in a roundabout sort of way. Yeah.
There's more.
More? Go on then, keep going. The questions are good.
Peter Morgan would like to know, would you use this as part of your workflow when printing also?
Definitely. So you've got a whole workflow starts with your source, which is your camera, then using your colour checker, and then going right through to the printing stage. That's what colour calibration is about. Colour calibration and monitor calibration work hand in hand, which when you get your final product, print is king. And when you're printing and you're selling people products, when you print something and you hand it to someone, the emotion on their face is so much different than looking on a phone. They look on a phone and you hand someone your camera and they'll go, oh swipe, what have they been up to? And they'll be really quite nosy in the camera, and there's no emotion. They'll go, oh, it's nice. But you hand them a print, something maybe mounted in a beautiful print, and there'll be pure emotion when they see that. There'll be a, or something like that, and especially when it's family, and there's an event, there's someone they know involved, they would love it. And for me, you cannot beat prints, which I love prints. I've got prints up on my walls at home, which I've taken, my kids have taken, photo books. I love looking at photography books. I've just bought Peter Lindbergh's book at the photography show, and it's absolutely amazing. Greg Gorman's book, I brought at the photography show as well. And those are sources of inspiration, but there are also things I can hold in my hand and flick through and look, rather than just sweeping through. So yeah, it's incredibly important to be able to do that. Thanks, Peter. Peter's at home with COVID, bless him. Hope you get better, mate. So, right, anyone else?
Anthony Crevers would like to know, is setting a white balance stroke grey card and using the colour checker related?
Not by gene pool, but they are. If you want to get a white balance and using the colour checker, it's two different things. Getting a white balance is getting a pure colour is completely different. And I'll go through that more next week when we do this sort of editing thing, and you'll see how I'll use the colour checker in Lightroom as well. And it's really, really simple to use. But stick with one of those and you can't go wrong. Anyone else? I want to take a couple more photos before we end. Are we all good? Thanks guys for the questions. They're brilliant questions, by the way, as well. Okay, so last couple of photos and then we're going to wrap for the day. There we go. Okay, so now as you notice, we're just going back to the lighting at the back. We're just going back to the lighting at the back, which is a sandwich lighting, just a couple of shots and really nice tight ones. I just want you to move away from this light closer to this one. That's it. Okay, there we go. So I can see where I take the photo that there's a shadow behind, but because this light's going at the back, it's going to knock it out. Okay, amazing. So I hope you've enjoyed today, guys. Apologies for the audio again. That's unfortunately one of the things that happens with live. But it's been amazing to see you guys today. Make sure you register for next week on the 19th. All the details will be down below or on the Facebook pages on the Calibrate Facebook